everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about how amends is going to be beneficial to your recovery. I'm going to be reading an article from the Betty Ford Foundation. And then after I read the article, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of talk to you about how you can do this in porn addiction and kind of fold my own personal path into this. So without further ado, let's read this article from the Betty Ford Foundation, Making Amends in Addiction Recovery. One of the telltale symptoms of alcohol and drug addiction is behaving in ways that go against your personal values and standards. That's why the 12-step recovery process includes the practice of recognizing how your behaviors have harmed others and seeking to repair the mistakes and damage caused during the act of addiction. Step 8 and Step 9 of the AA Alcoholics Anonymous call this approach making amends. Step 8 made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. And Step 9 made direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when to do so would injure themselves or others. On the surface, making amends might sound as simple as offering a sincere apology for your treatment of others, but there's more to the Cornerstone 12th step practice. Below, experts at the Betty Ford Connection Recovery Coaching Program answered a few questions asked about this reconciliation process and why it's so vital to the addiction recovery and spiritual health. What is a direct amend? In the 12-step recovery from alcohol and other drug addiction, a direct amend refers to the act of personally addressing issues with people who have been harmed by our behavior or our treatment of them as a result of the addiction. As outlined in Step 8 and Step 9, the practice involves going back to those individuals to acknowledge the harm or hurt we have caused them and demonstrate our changed behaviors in order to provide them the opportunity to heal. Whenever possible, a direct amend is made face-to-face rather than over the phone or by asking somebody else to apologize on your behalf. What's the difference between making amends and offering an apology? Think of the amends as actions taken that demonstrate your new way of life in recovery, whereas apologies are basically words. When you make amends, your acknowledgement and align your values to your actions by admitting wrongdoing and then living by your principles. In addiction, our actions and intentions aren't aligned. For example, we might intend to go to a friend's birthday party, but in actuality, we fail to show up for the event. When we make our apologies later for missing the party, our apology consists of the words rather than actions or changing behavior. And those words ring hollow when we repeatedly break our promises. So, to truly make amends, we have to offer more than just words. In recovery, our actions and intentions are aligned. An example would be telling somebody how sorry you are that you stole from them and actually gave back what you took. Are there times when direct amends are not advisable? Yes. Step 9 states that we make amends except when to do so would injure themselves or others. We don't want our actions to cause further damage, harm, or stress. Also, we might owe our amends to people that we can't reach. In those cases, we can make amends in a broader sense by taking actions like donating money, volunteering our time, or providing care. We can also make amends by living very purposefully within the bounds of our principles. This is known as making living amends. For example, if we hurt people with our living or with our lying, and we cannot make amends without further injuring them, we would make living amends by making a decision to behave and communicate with them completely and honestly. It's also important to take great care when making amends to someone who is in active addiction because our primary responsibility is to safeguard our own health and recovery from substance abuse. If making amends means exposing ourselves to triggering environments, we ought to consider and discuss healthy alternatives with a sponsor or addiction counselor. Should I try making amends with somebody who doesn't want to hear from me? No matter how much we feel the need to make things right, forcing another to meet with us to hear from us is not part of the steps. When those we've hurt are not able or willing to accept our amends, we can still move into a positive general direction by taking intentional steps to be of service to others or making living amends. It is important to note that making amends is for the person we hurt. Yes, we partake in the process of cleaning up our side of the street, but we do not make amends to clean our conscience or undo feelings of guilt. If someone does not want to hear from us, we respect that and do our best to move forward with our recovery. How will making amends help my recovery? Listen to this part. Taking these actions will help us to separate ourselves from the disease of the addiction. We come to understand that we are good people with a bad disease. Step 8 and Step 9 help us to move out of the shame that we lived in, shame that feeds the cycle of substance use and addiction. We strengthen and reinforce healthy recovery whenever we do our part to repair relationships or reach out to others with support and understanding. What if making an attempt to make things right goes wrong and the things get worse? It's important to have a plan in place before we reach out. We can't know for certain how another person will respond or even how the interaction might affect us emotionally. So be sure to talk with your sponsor or support group about your plan in the event that you need support. Remember, this is a 12-step process that can provide a platform for healing, but the person we are reaching out to may not be in the same place in healing that we are. We are not in control of this part, making and a living an amends. As with the alcohol and drugs, we are also powerless over other people. Very important concept. We cannot control what others respond, how they respond, and whether they will forgive us or whether they will hold on to negative feelings or resentments. In the end, we are not seeking forgiveness. We are seeking accountability for our own actions and holding ourselves to the standards of our own values and the 12-step program. Should I work on step 8 alone? Generally speaking, people who work through the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous with an addiction treatment counselor or sponsor, when you could turn to AA's Big Book and the 12 steps, 12 traditions, step 12 and step 12 for guidance to step 8. When first writing your list, don't worry about including everyone that you have wronged. Start by listing out the people closest to you. Very important. Over time, as your strength and deepening of the recovery and addiction program, you will undoubtedly revisit step 8 and step 9 multiple times. In other words, you're going to be iterative. Eventually, you will find you are making amends day by day through the positive actions you routinely take in living the 12 steps and 12 principles. What is the best way to make amends? There really is no best way for everybody. You need to find an approach that works for you. Talk with your sponsor or others in your recovery community about what has worked for them. If your actions match your intentions and you reach out to the person, you are doing the next right thing to right the past wrongs. It's simple but not easy. And remember, if you are feeling ashamed or mistakes have been made and damage is done during your using days, you are not your disease. And I think that's really important, especially for, porn addiction. Yeah, you're not your disease, man. So like whatever damage you did, you can't control that. Let me just do this last part. How soon do I start to make amends once I'm sober? Once you enter into sobriety, there isn't a set time for working step 8s and step 9. You might want to ask your sponsor and recovery support network for their insights about whether you're ready for it. In the 12-step tradition, your pace is your own to determine. No doubt you will experience challenges and setbacks along the way, but prioritizing recovery on a daily basis, doing whatever the next right thing might be for you, you will be keep moving forward in living a good life and good purpose. So what I wanted to kind of fold back into is inside of porn addiction, and I'll just cite my examples. Um, when I was working this process, I was intimate with my sponsor about all the things that I want to do. And when I got to step 8 and step 9, I caused a lot of damage. And this is not the same thing for all porn addicts. I had to hit that wall, and my hitting the wall, unfortunately, had splash damage for lots of people who were around me. Um, and some of that was just, there was a perception that I was a community figure, that I was trustworthy, and in general, a lot of those things are still true, but because of the nature in which my addiction got exposed, a lot of the perceptions of me as being a good citizen, as me being somebody who's trustworthy, a person who, a lot of trust was put into me as a community figure, and trust was given to me to like look after people and stuff. Um, a lot of that trust was broken, and there were people who were egregiously mad at me. I mean, I really set some people off, and I went back to my sponsor and told them, I was like, man, I've got a lynch mob out there. There's people out there that want to hang me. What am I going to do? And after some consideration, my sponsor said, you know what? I don't think that it makes any sense for you to go back and apologize to those people who are extremely angry at you right now. Instead, I want you to draft a letter and just pretend like you're actually interacting with them. And then we're going to burn that fucker. And that's exactly what we did. I wrote down a letter, and in that was just this long, detailed apology about what I had done. Now, here's the thing I want you to really understand. In that sort of like, you heard here in the Betty Ford, that it was kind of like writing an apology, and Betty Ford makes the warning, you're not really writing an apology, and that's true. Um, what you're doing is you're confronting yourself by talking to another person. And that's the reality. That's the cold, hard reality. Once you catch yourself saying, I was doing blah blah and I did it for this reason, right? Then you're almost making an excuse for why you did the thing you did. And so what you really have to do is you just come out, you say you're sorry for what you did, and maybe you even cite some examples about, I acknowledge that I caused this lack of trust, frustration, anger, and I'm really sorry about that. And you leave it at that. And that process is you confronting all the damage you caused into that individual. And it's one of the most spiritually healing things you can possibly do for yourself. And sometimes sometimes you won't get over it right away, but just getting into their sense of pain, man, just getting into their sense of pain. Um, I know for me personally, and I've talked about this before, that it took me a little while. I was actually mad at a lot of those people. I had anger issues, and I was mad that they wouldn't even talk to me, wouldn't even hear my side of the story. And it took a while before I realized that it doesn't fucking matter, man. You just have to let go of all of that. Your sense of entitlement over, being forgiven because you know you're a good person does not matter at all to them. What you know about yourself does not matter to them. The damage was done because of your actions. And I had to confront that, and it sucked. Once I got into that headspace and I was really able to recognize where my faults were and why those people deserved an apology, I rewrote that letter, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 times, and it finally came out. And I read it and I cried because, I knew it said a lot about me. That it took me a lot in that process to get over myself and my own sense of thinking that I was entitled to get some sort of amends between the two of us. The amends really, um, you know, it's not about you receiving something from the other person. It really isn't. It really isn't. So anyway, I think it's really useful that if you see that your addiction has actually harmed people, and if you are saying, "Well, I haven't harmed anyone," I would say if you don't have a sponsor, maybe talk to another person and just say, "Hey, am I crazy? But did I really hurt somebody by, offering my getting into this addiction?" I could list about 1,000 just generic reasons, right? Mm, did you ever sacrifice time that you should have been spending with other family members looking at porn? Did you take breaks from school, work, um, other friends, peer groups, whatever, to look at porn? Don't you think those people deserve an apology? No, no, that was my personal time. Yeah, there's reasons. If you search, you'll find the reasons. You don't always have to address those people directly, and especially when it comes to porn addiction. Now, if it's like a spouse or a girlfriend, again, I don't know in all situations that you should necessarily be delivering a personal apology, but if there was a lot of harm that happened, maybe consider it, right? And definitely talk to a third party, whether it's a sponsor or a close friend, a recovery buddy, and just kind of go over your battle plan before you actually do that. I 100% agree with that things should come from the heart, but they should be carefully constructed because you dump the wrong stuff out there, man. Yeah, you can screw it up really fast. This is Road to Recovery. Thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe. This content's free, man. I offer it up to other people to help them out. If you like, comment, subscribe, that actually helps push this up the algorithm so I can give it out to others. I don't monetize any of this crap, man. It is just for you. Take care. Have a good day.